Hey, I want to welcome our viewers to Kennesaw Happenings podcast. I'm Golfer Pete, and we have a special guest today, somebody that understands how to keep the body moving. And so Crystal was referred to us by Sarita, who's taken a class at the community center and said Crystal would make a great guest. And I'm excited to bring you Crystal today. So Crystal, tell us who you are, the business that you're in, and who you serve so our viewers can understand.
Well, Golfer Pete, I first want to say thank you for having me come on this wonderful podcast. I am honored and humbled that you would want me to come and share a little bit about what I do. My name is Crystal. People call me Coach Crystal. And I have a passion to help people uncover and discover a better version of themselves by addressing their health and wellness through fitness and movement. So I hail all the way from Ohio, and I moved here about a year ago from Chicago. And I am in a practice with my brother, Dr. Duran Duke, who is an internal medicine physician, and he is specialized in weight loss. And so we have a clinic in Marietta, and in that clinic, we service people who have nutritional issues, weight loss issues, and just needing to get that support to get them from where they are to where they want to be. I was blessed to be able to be a part of the Kennesaw Recreational Center, where I host a class on Monday and Wednesday. And in that class, we do a full body fitness movement class where we work on strength, balance, and agility. And it's normally an hour-long session, and every week we do something different. So not only does it challenge your body, but it also challenges your mind. And I have a special place in my heart for seniors. I understand the challenges having an older mother of what it means when we get older, and some of the aches and the pains that we weren't used to experiencing. Some of the physical challenges that we are prone when we get older that can't be just addressed with medication. And so the importance of movement is exponential, not when we're younger, but as we get older, because as Golfer Pete says, if you don't use it, you lose it.
That wasn't me. I mean, I did say that, but I did steal that from somebody else. But it does make sense.
It does make sense.
Yeah, you gotta keep moving.
Yeah.
So what got you into wellness? Were you like, how long have you been focused on the wellness part?
Yeah, well, I was and still am, but don't practice it, a speech language pathologist for over 15 years. And I worked in the rehab unit. So I would see people come in and they tend to have the same comorbidities: high blood pressure, overweight, obesity, high cholesterol, sometimes depression, and diabetes. And those were things that I noted that were comorbidities that could have been better managed or avoided by just lifestyle changes. And what those people dealt with in terms of the aftermath of having a stroke and a heart attack sometimes changed the whole trajectory of their life, their independence, their ability to do the things that they loved. And so I thought, not just being on the recovery phase of rehab, but how can we be more proactive and preventative? And one of the ways that I felt was a passion of mine, which was movement and exercise, was, I thought, a great way to start reevaluating how we can help people become and stay their healthiest through every stage of their life. So about 5 years ago, I became a fitness instructor after watching my mom, who was in her 70s at that point, struggle with understanding the importance of movement and feeling comfortable in a gym. Most people if they haven't grown up going to a gym, it's just kind of foreign and awkward to them to navigate. And so I kind of walked her through the gym experience until she learned to appreciate it and actually enjoy it. And seeing the transformation in her, I felt like, wow, I think I would like to share that with others. And so that's about 5 years ago, I became a fitness instructor and a health and wellness coach and started a business called Sea Life Fit.
I love that transition. Probably my favorite therapist was my speech therapist at Shepherd. I mean, when they teach you to talk again, there's a special kind of bond that you have there, and the patience and the understanding of where you are, and you basically transition through back to speaking and eating and all that. So that has to be very, I guess, enjoyable. But what would you say in the fitness? What kind of joy are you seeing as a fitness coach and wellness and focusing on helping people get healthy? What do you enjoy at the end of the day?
Yeah, that's a great question, Pete. And I always feel that wherever you're in your life, nothing's wasted. What I did as a speech language pathologist definitely transfers over to what I do as a fitness and wellness coach. I loved seeing people at their raw state where they're very uncertain and sometimes afraid and just lack the confidence to see themselves improving past where they are, and little by little taking baby steps and building on habits and strengths that they achieved in their fitness sessions, and then transferring those things into other areas of their life, not just in the gym. Then it's amazing how they'll say, you know what, I always wanted to take this hike and I never had the courage to do it, but now I feel strong enough to do it. Or I wanted to travel to see my grandson, and I just didn't know if I was going to be able to maneuver through the airport or carry my luggage. And now I really feel like I can do it. So the doors of opportunities that open to them once they feel confident in their body is unbelievable. And literally, I tell people, if you can see it and believe it, we can work towards making that happen. And I love to see people crush those ceilings that once held them back and open themselves up to new possibilities. No matter what phase of life or stage of life you are, there's always an opportunity to grow.
That's encouraging for people that have not been exposed to that environment. And I know, talking to the ladies here at Overture, they've enjoyed your approach to helping them overcome those obstacles of getting started and getting on a routine. I'm curious, like when you said about your brother, how did you two put the businesses together? Was it just you were thinking one day like it would be cool to put both of them together, or how did that happen?
I have to give him all the credit for that. I was a traveling therapist for years, and I traveled all over the country. And he was in residency in Chicago, and I had a little bit of a break. And so I went to Chicago to help move him in. Well, I think it was because he was new to Chicago, new to residency. He was a little, there a lot of trepidation about what was about to happen. So he offered for me to come to Chicago and do an assignment, because he didn't know anybody at the time. And so I thought, okay, I'll come. And it took a little bit for me to get a license for Illinois as a therapist. And so it probably was like 6 months. And 6 months, I called him up. I'm like, hey, I got a job. He's like, where? I'm like, Chicago. I said, I'm coming. He's like, what? What are you talking about? Like, he totally forgot about the whole conversation about me coming and living with him. And, he's just like, I don't think I said that. I'm like, yeah, you did. And I'm coming on Friday. So it was tough the first week because I think he had gotten kind of zoned into his life as a resident. And so long story short, my 3-month assignment turned into 5 years.
Whoa.
And we were roommates for 5 years. Never anticipated that happening. And then he he decided to move back to Atlanta after he graduated and open up a clinic. And in that clinic, he had a vision of a wraparound program where there would be a psychologist there, a nutritionist there, a health and wellness coach there, that he would be in the front leading the medical care of that person, but we would surround them with the support they would need throughout the journey. Because weight loss or just fitness or anything health related, as you know, Pete, it's not a single layer. There is multiple layers that people need to have addressed and cared for. And I think if we all are working with the mindset of making a person whole again and giving them the support that they need, then they're really going to be successful. And you're not going to see people fall out of that routine and slide back, because they've been given the support and the tools to be able to fly once they leave our clinic.
That's it's funny you shared that, because I like this gentleman, Dr. Peter Attias, and he wrote the book like Longevity, I think, and a guy that I go to recommended I read it, and it's a big book, but I started listening to all his videos, and on it he talked about the lack of like understanding of exercise and nutrition when it comes to the medical training of people in the past. And so the guy asked him, well, what do you think, what do you see coming down the road? And he said, well, I mean, change. He was talking about change. And he said, it's up to the individual. I mean, yes, we'll eventually fill that gap, but the understanding of how exercise and nutrition working to keep the body healthy as opposed to treating it when we have an illness.
Absolutely.
There is so much prevention that we never really focused on it, but that's cool that your brother had that vision of really wrapping everything around the clinic. So he's, I guess, would he say he's like the quarterback?
He's a quarterback.
Okay.
He's
and
a
then,
quarterback.
okay. And he has a supporting team.
That's right.
That's around him that pulls a specific function. So what do you see out there in the senior community? What is one issue that you could share with our viewers that you see over and over again? What would you say it is in your eyes?
In terms of just something problematic with their
yeah. When they come to you, like they say, "Hey, Crystal, I've got this." What are you seeing over and over again? More so than not much. More so than just standard things. Is there anything our viewers can understand?
I think muscle atrophy. That over time, as we get older, we lose muscle mass. In addition to losing muscle mass, we also lose range of motion. So those two ingredients are very significant, because put together, we put ourselves at higher risk for falls. We also put ourselves at higher risk in terms of the time it takes to recover once we have not only just a fall, but an illness, right? Laying in the bed for long periods of time, not taxing our heart and our lungs the way that we need to. When we come up against just a simple flu or pneumonia, it takes so much more for our bodies to respond to that, to fight back, and then to bounce back. And what typically happens is we do come back, but we don't come back to the level that we were prior to that illness. And it's a slow, gradual digression that happens. And then before you know it, it impacts our mental state, because now we don't feel confident in ourselves, in doing the things that we normally used to do. And so we start to limit what we do. We excuse ourselves out of life. And before you know it, we have said more no's to things than yeses. And that is a really scary place to be, because I think once our mind gets locked about what we can't do anymore, even if our body can do it, our bodies will follow suit. And they'll say, because my brain says I can't take these stairs anymore, my body says you can't take these stairs anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes from the stairs to going on that walk. And then from the walk, it goes from visiting with friends. And before you know it, we're isolated.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what my biggest fear is with the older generation, that they become isolated, not because it's a desire for them to pull back. It's because of all the limitations that they feel that they have or legitimately are experiencing, because they stop moving, they stop exercising, they stop challenging their brain and their bodies.
That's very good to kind of take our viewers through that. And I know when you first started working with the ladies at Overture, they were sharing your story about your mom
Mm-hmm.
and her journey. Why don't you share with our viewers your mom's journey and like where she was and where she is now, so our viewers can understand that transition?
Sure. She is the hero of the family.
Mm-hmm.
I have 3 brothers, and my father was a physical therapist prior to his cancer bout, and he passed. We were all very physically active, except for my mom.
Mm-hmm.
She played tennis, but other than that, really didn't do a whole lot. And she's a severe asthmatic. She has a pacemaker. And she's had several surgeries. And so for years, we tried to just kind of engage her in some type of exercise of any form. I mean, we bought her every form of equipment known to man. We got her trainers, we got her gym memberships, and she would, start sometimes not even start, but always put it on pause, that it was not the right time, or she would get to it, or, she was too busy. And it was very frustrating to see that. And I remember one day as a therapist coming home from an assignment, and I was saying to my mom, "Are you going to the gym?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, do you mind if I just go with you just to see what you're doing?" And once I got there, I realized that even though she'd been a member for years, it appeared like she was very uncomfortable in that space. And she just kind of like moseyed around with no purpose for why she was there or what she was doing. And she looked like she was extremely lost. And so I said, "Mom, I feel like I can potentially help you. If you're willing to join forces with me, I will commit to coming and working with you 2 to 3 times a week. We're going to go to this gym and we're going to start to rebuild your health." And she agreed. And we started with no weights, just her own body weight. We would go into one section of the gym and we would work out for about 35 minutes every single day, or 3 times a week. And then it started to go from 35 to 45 minutes, and 45 minutes to an hour. And she started to see the results of the work that she put into it. Not just now I'm able to do 5 squats and I was only able to do 1, but actually now I'm able to go up these stairs and I'm not winded. And my balance is better, and my clothes fit better, and my blood pressure is lower. And so with those small gains, those wins that she made within about 3 months, she was hooked. And she no longer needed me to be there every single time with her. Then she found friends that also had that same desire to improve their health. And she started to gather her friends up, and to the point now where she's in her 80s and still a severe asthmatic, still has a pacemaker, still working on, improving her balance, but she does not miss gym. She does not miss her time. Sometimes I'll call her up and she's like, "I'm on my way to the gym. I'll need to call you back." And I'm like, who are you? This is not the same way.
The new mom.
The new mom.
Yes.
New mom. And if she misses a day, she has to make up for it. So it has now become a part of her life. It is a part of her everyday schedule, and it has transformed her, and she understands the value of it, and she pushes herself to learn new things and to bring other people into the fold too, because I think once you understand the benefits of it and the camaraderie that happens when people are working it out on their own personal journey, but we're all doing it for the for the greater good for ourselves, and we're going to be each other's best cheerleader throughout this journey, then you want to share that with other people. You want them to see what the benefits of this is, and maybe possibly help them through those first scary stages of coming into a new space and not being really sure. And wouldn't it be great if somebody would walk beside you and say, let me show you how to use this machine. Let me show you how to do this exercise. Let me introduce you to some other people here that can help you as well. So I love to see the community that she's been able to build and be a part of in her new journey of health and wellness.
Wow, that's I mean, it has to just warm your heart when your own mom kind of accepts the transition. Because I remember what Dr. Attia said. He says, if I have to say one thing to my older people is exercise, because a lot of times people will hit the nutrition first and forget about the exercise. So did she, after like really understanding and moving in the exercise, and did that change anything on the nutrition side? Or
absolutely. Really? I think once you start to buy into health in general, you're more selective of what you eat, how you cook food, how much you eat, when you eat, your vitamins, even your medication. And so for her, she's a fantastic cook, we grew up with only homemade foods. We had homemade breads, homemade desserts every night. Everything was from scratch. So it was delicious. It wasn't always nutritious, but it was delicious. And then it's interesting, she said that when you know better, you tend to do better, right? So now instead of using butter, we use olive oil. Instead of frying it, we pan sear it. So there is a ways that you can enjoy the food that you've always enjoyed, but eat it with a better twist in terms of its nutritional value to it. So those gradual changes occurred too. And, knowledge is power. She would learn how to cook new things that she's never tried before and realize, I really like the way this tastes. I never knew that this was an option of another vegetable for me to try. And so that nutritional part is key. It's almost like the fuel to an engine, right? So, when you are driving your car and it's on empty and it says you got 5 miles before it's completely empty, you tend to not drive as fast, right? You don't put the air conditioning on for sure, or the heat. And that what happens that sometimes people go to the gym and their nutrition is off. And so they can't give 100%. They can't go as long. They can't go as hard or as far because of the fact that they didn't fuel themselves with the appropriate nutrition. And I think that's a key for a lot of older people. We forget to eat. I just wasn't hungry and now it's 3:00. And what did you eat? Well, I had a granola bar and some juice, So even as we get older, it's important to have routine. It's important to pre-plan so that when I get up in the morning, I have nourished my body so that I can be my best throughout the day. And I'm putting stuff in my body that's going to have good fuel to get me through that mid-afternoon, that I can still enjoy snacks. I can still enjoy the things that I like, but maybe I do it in a different way in terms of how much, the portion size, the frequency of it, so that I continue to feed my body the foods that I want, but I don't negate or neglect the things that I enjoy as well.
That's good. That's good advice, because I think it's a comprehensive approach to get to the level as you want to keep getting better. What would you, for the people that aren't familiar with what you do at the community center, tell our viewers what's going on there and how they can get involved with you?
Absolutely. So one of the platforms that I have is at the community center, where It's open to anybody to come, no matter what your skill set is. I always tell people that as long as you're breathing, you're a candidate for my class. And the importance of breathing. I don't care if you have to stop, you have to sit down, just keep breathing. Throughout from the time you walk in to the time you leave, you got to be able to promise me you'll keep taking an inhale and an exhale. Typically, at Kennesaw, we have our session is for 1 hour. And we always start out with a warm up because we have to warm our bodies up before we even stretch them out. And I would encourage everybody to do that. Even if you're just walking, do a little bit of a warm up. Some knee bends, some arms over your head, just to kind of get that muscle, the blood flowing through our bodies. And it's really telling our brains, hey, we're about to do something here. I need you to get engaged in this. After we do our warm up, we always stretch. And that's, most people don't understand the importance of stretching, but you probably take about a good 10 minutes and just stretch. And times those blocks are about 10 minutes long. The first block is cardiorespiratory focused. So it's something to raise your heart rate. And I typically will show the activity in segments. So they'll know exactly which segment they're going to do. And then I show them the modifications. So if you're a beginner, this is what you're going to do. If you're intermediate, this is what you're going to do. If you're advanced, this is what you're going to do. So everybody will have a seat at the table. There is not something that you're going to be challenged to do, that there's not a modification that you can't use, and there's not an advancement that is not accessible to you. If you're like, this is too easy for me, then I have another way that you can do it that's going to be more challenging. This is too challenging. Let's take it down a couple notches. So our second block typically is working on our lower body, which is really important, especially as we get older, because that's where a lot of our balance and agility kind of hides right in those lower legs, our hamstrings and our quads and our calves. So we do a 10-minute block with our lower body, and then we do a 10-minute block with our upper body. So that's our arms, that's our chest, that's our back. And then we round it out with a 10-minute core workout. By that time, they are looking for the door.
I can see why.
And that's about 10 minutes too. Again, each one of those sections or those blocks, there's modifications. We always take breaks. You can always stop. Always encourage people, bring your water. Between each block, you have a break to get your breath, to get some water, to exhale, and to move on to the next one. And then we end with everybody's listening, waiting for that quiet music, because when the quiet music comes on, it's the cool down. And we stretch you out and we make sure that everybody's good. We also answer any questions you might have about the exercise. I had one of the clients come up to me afterwards today and say, hey, I'm having a hard time tying my shoes. My hip flexors are really tight. What exercises can you recommend for me? So anything that people have. And I love to kind of give a reflection on how well they're doing. Some people, if you come in on Monday, it's a new routine. Wednesday's the same repeater of that routine. So sometimes I'll see what they did on Monday, where they were struggling with a little of the balance. They did that same routine on Wednesday. They didn't need the support of the chair, or they were able to hold on with less with the need for less support as they did. So just seeing them, and I want them to recognize their progression, not just me seeing it. They're like, hey, you know what? I had a 2-pound weight and I was able to do it on Wednesday with a 3-pound weight. When you start to see your own progression, it inspires, it fires, it motivates you to push yourself a little bit more.
Right. What I love that. And so you're over there Monday and Wednesday. Is that correct? What about with your brother's clinic and what y'all are doing over there? How does that work and where is it located for our viewers?
Great. So that is, I have actually some of my ladies that are coming for Kennesaw that I see personally, privately for health and wellness coaching and for fitness. So our office is located in Marietta. It's 3020 Roswell Road. And typically what happens is, if you need to see the physician, we do a consultation. If you just want to see health and wellness coach or fitness coach, we do consultations. Those are all free consultations. And typically some people, I see people virtually and I see them live as well. So for our fitness, if you're in the area, I love for them to come first, to come to the gym and have a fitness assessment done. And then sometimes I'll see them virtually for their fitness, depending on the location of where they're at. For health coaching, most people prefer the virtual, but I love people to come in to get their health coaching as well. Right. Sometimes I do movement health coaching. So we're doing our health coaching, but we're also walking the track as well. So they get a 2-for-1. But the role of that I play in the clinic is the health and wellness coach. So we talk people through developing a goal, creating habits to support that goal, changing mindsets that have been a hindrance in our past. How do I think about this obstacle that has been an issue for so many years? Is it possible that there's another way of looking at it? Or is there a label that I've put on myself or other people has put on myself that I've just worn for years that I've never really questioned before, interrogated before? And then the last section of the health and wellness journey, momentum that I've gained with the tools that I've had to grow. And once you're out of the program, you're able to continue so that 6 months from now, you're still doing the same thing. 6 years from now, you're still doing the same thing, and even more, because it's not a change, it's a transformation that has occurred.
Right. I love that. The transformation is, I think, an important understanding for our viewers, because it's always hard in my journey is changing habits. Like Atomic Habits. I really love
that book.
Yeah, it's the transition to new habits that kind of help our viewers to understand is, our brains get wired sometimes in specific activities. And so if you're changing the wiring of your brain, that's a little bit more difficult than the transition into a new habit that makes it easier for a person to adapt to. So that's very good. Appreciate you sharing that, Crystal.
And I love every one of my clients has to read Atomic Habits.
Really?
They do.
Yeah,
that's a good book, right? It really helps people. And I love it because it really gives you the steps in a way that is very applicable, right? And that most people, I think people have a hard time with change because it's not woven to their daily lives, right? And so they are definitely looking at it as a short term. I remember I was working in a clinic and I was working with a nurse, and she was grossly overweight. And she went to a health clinic and they put her on this diet. And she lost 25 pounds in 2 months. She looked great. She felt great. And within 6 months, she had gained it all back and then some.
Yep.
And I remember asking her, what happened? And she said, you know what, Crystal? I actually enjoyed the food and the program. It was just too much change too fast.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
And so I feel true. that sometimes we go on these diets, and I have a list of diets I tell people, and I'm like, they're like, which one's the best? Which one works? I'm like, they all work. They all work. But can you see yourself on the holidays following this? Can you see yourself on vacation following this? If the answer is no, then, a statistic says that 85 million people in America start a diet at the beginning of the year. And within within a year, they've gained all of it back plus some. Yeah. So that's very discouraging. And so most people just take the mindset, this is how I'm going to be. I'm just not going to change. But if we would make small changes, and then once we make that change, when we don't do it, we're off. Like I tell people, I just want you to drink 2 glasses of water a day. Sometimes it's that simple. And when they miss their glass, like, you know what? I felt dehydrated. I really missed that water, So I always have people when they're health coaching, I'll say, if you never see me again, within every month, there should be something that if you never see me again, you're always going to do. It could be water intake. It could be movement. It could be how I eat breakfast or what I eat. But it is now, you've owned it. It is yours. You put it on like you put your pants on every morning. And if you're walking around with no pants on, it feels weird.
Yeah, that's easy. I mean, I like that analogy and the understanding, because the mindset is you have to set yourself up, and the gymnastics you go through in your mind help to transfer that transformation. So that's real important. Thank you for sharing that with our viewers. So I want to always we'll have some information in the show notes for you. But the best way to get a hold of you, could you share with our viewers what that would be?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is Life Fit.
Okay.
And so you can go to my website. You can contact me at my office. The phone number there is 330-646-3595. You can follow me on Instagram. I love to at least have people sit down and hear their story. Sometimes I have some tools to help them. Sometimes my tool to help them is to refer them to somebody else.
Right.
I am a health and wellness coach, but I am not a dietitian. So if you have some really concerning dietitianal needs, I refer you out. Some people, they have an issue with food and it goes beyond my scope. And so we need to maybe refer you to a psychologist or a counselor to kind of help go through those issues. So I think it's really important to know what your role is, what your level of expertise is, and to be able to give people resources when it's no longer in your scope of practice.
Yeah, that's good advice. I mean, yeah, we're very much specialized in today's society. So, you don't want to be all things to all people, because, the generalization doesn't give you the specific addressing of the needs that are needed out there. What would you say, we always ask our guests, can you recommend somebody like yourself that would be a good guest for our viewers? Is there somebody from the top of your mind that might be a good guest that could share with our community?
Well, I'm a little partial, but I think having my brother come on would be awesome. He has a passion to see people change, and really, medicine has been which we talked about a little earlier about being cookie cutter. And part of it is just the way that our medical system is set up, right? There's a limited time that you can spend with each patient. And because of that, we can't address all the needs that you have. We're just going to be able to do the top ones. And hopefully, between the time I see you to the time you come back, the things that we didn't address didn't get worse.
Yeah.
And so it has become a business versus a place where people actually feel like they can get their needs met because they've been able to communicate it effectively, and the doctors has a great understanding of what issues need to be addressed. Yes. And the follow up and the follow through is there. And so he's very passionate about really understanding the dynamics of the person, not just their weight loss issues, but everything that surrounds that with them. Yeah. And then giving them not only the medical care, but also the insight to see things maybe a little bit different and the support along the way. He's a type of doctor that maybe once a quarter he meets all of his patients out and they walk the park, you know. So we just had a session last month where he had met them all in the park and they did healthy cooking and they had a meal for them in front of them, prepared for them, and talked to them how we can still have brownies. I had brownies that were made out of black beans and it was good. Who knew, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's, again, not just the medical care, but doing life.
Yes.
And having a physician that really cares about not just your numbers, but how you are doing life. Because a lot of people have a high standard of living, but poor quality of life.
Yeah. 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 That's exactly what Dr. Tia said. It's not how long you live, it's that quality of that life that really people want, because if you can't get down and play with the grandkids, or you can't go out and do activities, it's great to live long, but you know, you're limited if your health isn't responding to the point where you can keep up with young kids.
Absolutely. And I feel like when you start saying more no's than yeses to things, then it's a slow digression to the point where you might ask this question, what am I doing now?
Yes.
You know, and I think being in a rehab unit for so many years and seeing people who were alive but weren't living.
Yes.
And I think with the older generation, if I would take a poll, their number one fear is losing their independence.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
absolutely.
One of the ways that could be prevented is keeping yourself as healthy as you possibly can, right? Because it's very scary to think that somebody else is making decisions for my life.
Yes.
And I don't want anybody to have regrets that they could have done things different or better, or they could have been in control longer for their lives, or set themselves up for better outcomes by making decisions on this side. I always tell people when they start my program, 6 months from now, you're going to walk past an era and you're going to look at yourself and you can say 2 things. I wish I would have, or I'm glad I did.
Yes, I love that. That's a quote we got to put in the show notes on that one. It's funny because you must be reading my mind, because we always ask, what thought, quote, or insight can you leave our viewers as we wind down? That's going to be hard to top, but I'm going to ask it to you anyway. Is there, as we close out, what can you share with our viewers now? You could repeat that one and it would be good.
Well, the model that I use is don't wait. It's never too late.
Yeah.
And yes, you're worth it.
Awesome. Well, Crystal, thank you so much for being a guest. I'm going to have to shout out to Sarita for giving me, say, you got to talk to Crystal. And so, Sarita, this is for you now.
All right. Her nickname is Winner. She's the winner.
Whoa. Okay. Now, one time, no, you weren't playing that one game. So I was just saying, yes, you are a winner for sure. And that is good. Thank you so much, Crystal. We appreciate you being a guest today.